just had to say the word good.
Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. We are post-trade deadline, and I haven't seen this many beautiful faces on this screen in so long. I'm joined by the familiar faces, Mr. Joey Ricotta and Mr. Tyler Edmonds, and we have a new friend. Well, he's not new necessarily to On Tap, but he's definitely new to the Cubs on Tap faithful. Part of the Center Cup podcast, has already guest starred on the Four Feathers podcast, and now making his Cubs on Tap debut, Mr. Nick Newmeyer. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. We are post-trade deadline. The Cubs kicked the living shit out of the Dodgers tonight. Joey, you kind of said it a little bit earlier. It's a great day to be a Cubs fan, man.
It's a great day. It's a great day. I'm feeling good, boys. I'm feeling really good. I'm exhausted, and I was like, I found enough energy to get on here tonight because I was thinking I'm just going to be in a coma for the rest of the day today. We had Festa all weekend and preparing for that for basically the last at least half week has been
Did you get
a
to play
lot.
bocce ball?
I did. We did decent. We didn't win it. But we went 4-2. It was double elimination. So 4-2. We made it to championship Sunday, even though we were in the losers bracket side of things. But we had a chance. We had to win like 5 or 6 more games to get there.
So a pretty good bocce showing, huh?
Oh, that's what you were trying to get to. I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm sorry. No, it's Bocce, Ron. But there were people that were saying bocce there too.
Ron.
Yeah, thank you for reiterating.
Still one of the greatest standing all-time clips from Cubs on Tap. But no, we're happy you were able to join us, Joey. And Tyler, are you echoing in the same sentiment?
Dude, I love this time of year because it's absolute chaos. I love chaos just in general, and the fact that we all know this day was coming, and we had so many things on our trade deadline Christmas list, and I'm feeling pretty good, guys. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
It's hard not to. Nick, certainly, maybe last, but definitely not least. First off, sir, welcome to the Cubs on Tap podcast.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, how are your vibes feeling right now post-trade deadline?
I think, I said this before we hit live. I'm satisfied. And I genuinely don't remember a time where I was satisfied with the trade deadline. I think I'm going to be completely honest, I forgot which one of you said it, but all the needs were addressed. And this is the first time that, they needed starting pitching. They went out and got starting pitching. They needed bullpen help. They needed bullpen help. You look at what happened last year, where the team even openly said that they felt that they got sort of left to the dogs. Whereas now this year they are reinforced. And, are any of these Kevin Gausman, we can certainly take a deeper dive into the actual acquisitions. I know you talked about Gausman yesterday, Ron, but he's not the marquee guy, but he's not gonna the big story he's not the big fish of the deadline, obviously. But there's certainly a lot of players that they got that make the Cubs a better team than they were yesterday. I think, the only way this deadline could have been possibly better for them is if they went out and got Skubal, and that was never happening. I'm sorry to anybody that was hopeful. That was never happening. So
Indeed. It really did feel like it was never happening. And, it would have been cool, though, because I'm sure the shirts over at Obvious Shirts would have been pretty sick if Tarek Skubal was a Chicago Cub. This is the shameless plug, as we always do. You see I always mess this up. It's up in the corner. It's above my face. You can go ahead and take a picture of that. That QR code will take you over to obviousshirts.com. Get yourself some fun merch. I got my 120 shirt because I'm daydreaming of being at the ballpark on Wednesday for the 120 start. And you can get all the good goodies over there on Tap Sports. Get you 10% off at checkout. So shout out to our friends at Obvious Shirts. Guys, Nick, I think you laid the kind of groundwork here perfectly for just how this deadline went. You get the Gausman acquisition on Saturday, or pardon me, on Sunday. And sitting here talking to the comment section last night, everybody kept asking there, Ron, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? And I said I thought they would make 3 trades. That's exactly what happened on Monday. They made 3 deals. The first coming, we thought it was going to be Reed Detmers. It wasn't Reed Detmers. In fact, it was Braxton Garrett instead from the Miami Marlins. And then a little bit later on, we heard about the additional acquisitions. Ryan Zeferjahn, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm going to figure that out at some point. Nasty relief pitcher who's literally under team control through the 2030 season. Crazy to think that they could get a player like that at the deadline. And then, of course, the final, maybe really big one, I think that satisfied, I would say. Satisfied was a great word already used here this evening with the Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor acquisition. Gentlemen, I'm going to quickly, before I open the forum to everybody else, I'm going to pat myself on the back. Said they would make 3 trades. I said it would be 2 starters, a reliever, and a bench bat. And I nailed it, boys. Let's go. I'm
Way to go.
feeling good. Ron Stradamus is in full effect at this time of the year. But guys, I look at this and you guys said it, satisfied, filling all their needs. It's been a long time since the Chicago Cubs, I think, have had a trade deadline where majority, if not almost the entire fan base walks away and saying, yeah, maybe they didn't get the big fish. Maybe they didn't get the sexy name, but they filled the needs and everybody feels good about what happened to this point. So guys, I kind of want to preface, I'm going to lead you with a question and then this can open up some other cans of worms. How would you grade the Cubs deadline with a letter grade? And you can always explain your reasoning here. I'll let you guys go ahead and think about it for a second. I don't know about you guys. I'd give this one an A-. I really think the only thing that kept it maybe from being a solid A or even an A+ was maybe that truly controllable starter. I know Braxton Garrett has term. He's under team control through 2028. But he's kind of an unknown. He's coming back from Tommy John. When he's on, he's great. He fits the Cubs profile. High ground ball rate. Loves to throw stuff that, has movement, sinker, splitter, that kind of stuff. I think he fits the long-term vision perfectly for what the Cubs want, but that wasn't the Reed Detmers or the Jose Soriano or the Emerson Hancock or the George Kirby that I think a lot of fans wanted. So really outside of that, though, you got a controllable arm in him. You got a super controllable reliever, which I think is massively critical in this day and age and market. A good bench bat, guy that mashes lefties as well, which is huge. And finally, Holmes, who can be a bullpen arm in the playoffs, can be a starter in the playoffs. And he's got a player option for $12 million for next year. I doubt he takes it, especially if he pitches really, really well down the stretch. But at least that puts the Cubs in a position maybe to get him on an affordable contract for another year or two because he's in his early 30s already. So I would say A-. Do you guys echo? Or would you rate it a little lower, a little higher? I'm trying to test the waters here with you guys. Tyler, do you have a letter grade here to start us off with?
I can agree that I'd give it an A-. I mean, like you said, they didn't get the big giant fish. But I'm gonna be honest, Kevin Gausman is a sex AF name to me. He's got the stuff. He's got the splitter. He's been there. He's done that. World Series last year. Has the hair. All of it. Yeah, he's not having the season that he's accustomed to having. But, dude, when he's on, he's nasty. He's so nasty. They address their needs. It's like we talked about in the pre-show. Everything obviously, Scooble would have been nice. The Reed Detmers that we were teased with for like 2 hours today would have been great too. You take that out of the picture. With the Padres shocking me getting the starters that they got, I think they did very, very well with all the moves they did today. And you take that and you add it to the fact that they have so many arms that if they can, and a lot of them are on track right now to be ready within the next month.
Soon, yeah.
Soon, and I'm pretty sure, Ron, me and you talked about it the last time we were on here. They're about to have a good problem, which is who the f are we gonna if the playoffs started today? When let's just say when everybody's healthy, who are we taking out of this rotation and in the bullpen? It's going to be a good problem to have. I feel like so. Yeah, I agree. I would give it an A-.
Definitely good problem to have. Joey, Nick, do you guys agree with the A-, or are you guys going to tell me to tone down my excitement maybe a little bit?
You know, I'm basically A- to A. So it's like it's right there. I can't. Yeah, I think I'm everything that you guys have said about matching, doing what they needed to do as far as the needs goes. You know, I've been saying it for months. I think we've all been saying it. They need two more starters. They need more help in the bullpen. I was thinking, you know, they need two arms in the bullpen, but it feels like you really did both here with these moves because, like you said, Clay Holmes can go in the bullpen, and I found myself earlier today just looking at it like, okay, not only who do they take out for the playoffs, but who do they take out? Like, what is this whole pitching staff look like when everyone gets healthy? Because you've still got those guys that are knocking on the door to get healthy here in early to mid August. You know, Palencia, Hunter Harvey, like those guys are all still coming back as far as what it looks like. Hobie Milner, Steele, Shelby Miller, possibly. Like, there's all these developments that are happening within the Cubs organization from a pitching standpoint and health standpoint. Edward Cabrera, you know, like what is this rotation really going to look like? But I'll just to go back to the deadline itself, they left no room for error now. Like, this is now, it feels like to me you're stable with Gausman, especially. Like, I think Gausman, he's pitched a lot better than what his numbers really look like. And I think between him and Clay Holmes, you know, those two deals in particular, like these are guys that are set up really well for what the Cubs have aligned. I mean, the splitters, the movement, the ground ball pitcher types that both of these guys are, they fit in perfectly with the defensive alignment, the gold gloves around the diamond. We saw a great play tonight from Pedro Ramirez, is playing good third base, him and Bregman. Like all around the field, I think their numbers are going to look way better because the Mets defense was trash. The Blue Jays defense, not great. So like these are really good pitchers here that we're getting in the door. And obviously it depends on a lot of things with Clay Holmes' health too. It sounds like he's close to being back. Maybe the first start might be with the Cubs, but he might need another rehab or something. But yeah, I keep looking back at this and I'm like, yeah, there's things that you could critique. You can say, oh, they gave up so-and-so. They gave up Jefferson Rojas. They gave up Mo Baller. I can't believe you would do that for these two guys, top prospects. If not right now, you know, Mo Baller might be on a decline as far as the way people view him because of his start this year. But you got to make these moves eventually. And I'm sick and tired of them not doing it. So finally, I can sit here and feel like, you know what? They're going for it. And they're adding to what they need to do when they're in contention. And I love it.
Yeah, Nick, I want to make sure I give you the floor here before I interject any thoughts. So keep it moving.
Yeah, I'd say A-. You could talk me down to a B+, honestly. I think, like, if Kevin Gausman is your marquee acquisition, I think, you know, just looking at his record, obviously, yeah, you know, looking at the Blue Jays defense, there are certain stats that will translate better to playing for the Cubs. But when your top guy that you acquired has a 5-10 record with a 4.38 ERA, I know ERA is not the best stat. He's 35 years old on the last year of the contract. That wasn't, when I looked at that, I didn't say, oh my God, we got Kevin Gausman. I'm like, nice. You know, we got a warm body that we can put in the rotation that can pitch innings, because I think that's where my biggest pet peeve was last year. I was thinking about this as I was watching the first inning when Matthew Boyd was just getting absolute torched in the first 10 pitches of the game. Obviously that worked out better in the end, but you look at what happened last year when, Cade Horton goes down, Shota Imanaga just starts giving up long balls left and right. Matthew Boyd became sort of the de facto ace of this team. And he was never supposed to be an ace. He was already pitching way further past his career highs. And it was evident in the fact that the starts he was making, he wasn't going as deep as he usually was. His velocity was going down. And so there was an over reliance on play. You ended up, especially in game 5 of the Brewers series, they ended up having to trot out Imanaga for 4 or 5 innings, even though he was giving up home runs. And so they had almost a predicament where they had to rely on certain pitchers a little too much. And so that's where it's like, okay, is Kevin Gausman going to put this team over the edge? No, he's not. He's not going to be that guy where it's like, oh my God, everybody watch the Cubs. They got Kevin Gausman now. That's not what this signing was, though. It's kind of more, I said, like, it's a warm body that you could throw in the rotation that is going to give you some pretty good quality starts, but is also going to take some of the load off of the other pitchers so you don't have to depend on them as much. So I would say I would say A- because they address those needs, and that's a very good thing to do. But there were better options from a starting pitcher. Like Jose Soriano would have been great. George Kirby, I would have taken as well. There were better options, so that's why I can get talked down to a B+. But I wouldn't be too mad with an A-.
I think that's a good place that this thing hovers. And I what I like about what they did at the deadline, because I agree, it wasn't necessarily the deadline of sexy names, but it was the deadline of learning from yesteryear's mistakes. And I think that was what was so critically important, because again, you look back, you laid it out perfectly, Nick, how everything transpired in the playoffs and how they had to rely on certain people more than they wanted to. And they were hoping and praying that certain guys could maybe be healthy, right? The Cade Horton wash was insane, thinking, wow, maybe he can get back for game 5 just so they give themselves a friggin' chance. And it never really got to that point. Now this year, you look at this rotation, you go, if you can't find 4 guys to throw for you in the playoffs, you have a huge issue because of the amount of arms that are here. And you mentioned some of the health, right? I mean, look at the rotation right now as it stands. Assuming the additions that were made today come into fruition here soon, I will say probably more so Gausman, Holmes than Garrett right now, who's been pitching at AAA for the majority of the year, just because the Marlins didn't really have a place for him. He kind of struggled a little bit back in May. He's been really good down in AAA. He's pitching to a 2.90 ERA down there in 15 starts. Looks really good down there. But right now, you're probably looking at Boyd, Imanaga, Gausman, Holmes, Colin Ray, probably for the rest of the regular season. Or maybe at least until Edward Cabrera gets back. Or maybe at least until, maybe Javier Assad wants to jump back in the rotation. Oh, and then we get to the playoffs, and maybe Ben Brown and Justin Steele are coming out of your bullpen. Oh, and then are you sending Ray to the bullpen? And then you got Gausman, who's pitched big innings in the playoffs, Clay Holmes, who's pitched big innings in the playoffs. So not only did you address the depth need, but you got guys that have been there and know how to fucking do it. And I think that's at least what gives me a little bit of peace, right? This wasn't 3 Braxton Garrett trades. We're betting on upside. We're betting on this. We're betting on that. No. Kevin Gausman just pitched in the World Series last year, right? Clay Holmes is only how many years removed of deep playoff runs with the New York Yankees before he started to move around throughout his career. The fact that they went out and got guys who have been there, done that, but also played to the team's strengths. Garrett's got a high ground ball rate. Clay Holmes might be like the best in the league when it comes to ground ball rate. They found they hit all the right measurables and went quantity and quality without going for the really, really high. And you also kept your farm largely intact outside of really Jefferson Rojas. I don't think there's anybody else that was dealt besides perhaps Moises Ballesteros, assuming he actually gets to play every day in Los Angeles and turns into the hitter that people are hoping he becomes over a course of 162. You really only traded 2 players that you might look back on and go, man, that one sucks a little bit. You didn't have to deplete your farm. There was no Josiah Hartshorn going out the door. You weren't departing with all of your top pitching arms. The fact they were able to execute this deadline the way they did, despite the lack of that sexy name, that depth is what just it gives me this sense of peace, because now it's the complete opposite problem that you had just from a year ago, where it was, wow, how are we going to get through the playoffs with no starting pitching? Now it's, wow, who are you going to leave off the playoff roster because you have too much of it? And that's a problem that I'm sure Craig Counsell's sitting back smoking a stogie, drinking a glass of wine right now in the clubhouse at Wrigley going, what a day. What a day. Because I don't have to sit here and rack my brain over Matthew Boyd maybe throwing like 3 games in a row at this point, because we got the arms to be able to do it.
And Shota was just named what, player of the month?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
like,
that dude got put on a 1-year deal and kind of locked the fuck in.
locked in. I mean, and I'm not saying I want him to be the game 1 starter of any series, but if he's going to pitch like this, like, you know, he makes the questions. He makes the, like you said, Ron, those are questions that, but you did a really good job of illustrating the pitching staff, because I think, you know, even Zeferjahn, who he throws gas. Like this whole, it's a unit now. Now it looks like a more clear picture of being able to move some of those guys with Ray and Assad to the pen. And you don't feel like, well, why are you moving Assad to the pen? Because he's a starter. He's killing it. Well, now, hey, these other guys are starters. They've been starting. They're good starters. You don't feel like it's a terrible move like it was when Jamison Tyon was in the rotation, or, you know, and then we didn't even talk about David Peterson, who's actually been pitching pretty well since the trade. That's another trade move that didn't happen at the deadline, but, you know, I got to give credit to Jed and them. Yeah, Man of Steel is coming. There's a ton of people just locked the fuck in right now with this Cubs deadline. I love it. Tyler, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and to echo what you said earlier about getting rid of some, or having to trade some of the farm guys. The one thing that gets on my nerves every time this time of year when the Cubs make the trade, or most teams in that sense, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they gave up that kind of haul just for this guy." Dude, you have to. This is the reason. This is one of the reasons you build up a farm system like they built up over the years, is to trade for the needs that you need. And again, like you said, Ron, and you as well, Nick, with the playoffs, with what we saw in the playoffs last year, it was worth it right now for this team to give up those players. And what's crazy, Ron, is me and you said, hey, more than likely, Kevin Alcantara and or Matthew Shaw will not be on this team come the night of August 3rd. And
they're both still here.
That's crazy.
I'm glad they didn't have to do that either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just, you have to do that to fit the days of people like, yeah, once every blue moon, you're going to see a PCA for a hobby bias trade. You're going to see that. But the days of trying to pull a fast one on another team, you know, oh, we only had to give up this guy. We got a deal right now on this guy, on this awesome play, whatever. It more times than not, that's not going to happen. You got to give up good players or potentially good players for good players. It just, I know it sounds, well, no, Tyler. It just kills me every time, especially at least in the last few years when there's a trade made and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they gave up this prospect and that prospect and la-di-da.
It's always going to feel like that too. Like you said, Tyler, I think it's, and I said this, I actually put this out on a tweet earlier. It's like 95% of the time, I think as a fan of your whatever team that you're a fan of, I mean, we're obviously Cubs fans, but if you're a Mets fan and you're buying at the deadline, it's always going to feel like an overpay. But when you do it right, and if you're doing what you need to do at the deadline, and it works, and you win the World Series like they showed with Chapman, it's not an overpay. Like, you have to pay the price to meet the price that the team is asking for. So, yeah, give up good players to get good players. And when that happens, you're doing what you need to do. You put yourself in this position to be buyers, and you should do that.
And guys, I'll tell you what. A prospect is a prospect until they're no longer a prospect. We've been saying it for years. It comes on tap.
There it
when
is.
it comes to fruition, right? Deal from those guys. Utilize those assets. it felt like for a while the Cubs were hanging in the guys for too long, and maybe finally they didn't do that. Nick, I cut you off. I apologize. Please continue.
I was just gonna say, like, this might be a bit more of a hot take. Like, the only thing that stings about trading Moises Ballesteros is that we don't get to have someone with the nickname Mo Baller on this team anymore. That's it.
Yeah,
It's a good point.
Like, for sure.
You know, you just look at like what he actually brought to the team, and I love Mo Baller. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this to like disparage on him in any way, but he was brought up as a DH catcher who is primarily going to be a DH for the foreseeable future. You already have Amaya and Carson Kelly behind the plate. You have Seiya Suzuki at DH. Both of those positions are a little bit crowded. And let's be honest, he did not earn his place with his bats. Like, he did not take Seiya away from the DH position. He did not earn those at bats with the way he was swinging it. So am I heartbroken? Like, there's the sentimental aspect of, oh, Mo Baller. Like, I mean, this is, you know, I was there when there was like the Rizzo game when he hit his first career home run. Like, I was there for Seiya's first career home run too. I have a special place in my heart when I'm there for people's first career home run. So I always liked him. But am I heartbroken? No. Am I pissed that we don't get to have an epic nickname, which, even bigger hot take, I think it might be the best nickname on this team since El Mago? Yes, I'm a little pissed about that, but I'm not heartbroken that he's sent off on that trade.
And Nick, on the bright side, at least he went to the Angels and not the Brewers or the Cardinals or somebody that we're going to see often that could just destroy us down the road.
Yeah,
he went
that's
to the
never going to
Angels.
bite our ass in the playoffs.
Yeah.
No,
Just
exactly.
cart them off to the AL West. That's the best way to do it, as long as it's not the Astros. Just send them somewhere in the AL West.
I'll say too, like, I was, this is going to be a question for you guys too, but I feel like the development of certain guys this season has also made guys like Mo Baller dispensable to this team, to this organization, not to others, but like Owen Ayers, he's developed in a way that's like, okay, we got our backup catcher plan coming up the pipe. We've got
Joey. You took my next thought right out of my mouth. That's exactly where I was gonna go. So I'm glad you brought it up, because you're 100% right. Owen Ayers breaking out the way he did, Pedro Ramirez breaking out the way he did, because of these guys coming quote unquote out of the woodwork, and obviously they're not totally out of the woodwork, but these guys that ascend that maybe the front office didn't predict to ascend in the way that they're doing. Or in Pedro Ramirez's case, the kid's hitting over 300 in the big leagues and playing incredible defense. You saw the throw he made tonight from third base. Because of those ascents, all of a sudden you can shift your prospect pool around. And Moises Ballesteros has also gotten to the point where he technically graduated from the pipeline list. Like, he wasn't technically considered a top prospect anymore, because he was more that tweener guy who now was on that call up and send down train.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with you, Joey. Like, the fact that these guys ascended is what allowed them to make some more of these deals.
And if we look at it too, like, there's a couple of these other, like, the minor deals that we're looking at with like Braxton Garrett, who we know that's kind of like a dart throw, right? It's a controllable piece, but he was at one point a pretty highly touted prospect. He was just underneath. Healthy. People forget he was just underneath Edward Cabrera in the Marlins system, and around the 2020, 2021 era, like that, they were like neck and neck as far as prospect rankings in their system. So like, and he's had some success. I think he could be a factor coming in, maybe not this year, but you know, the next couple of years that they've got him on control. And the guys that they gave up in that deal, Jonathan Long, he's not going to see playing time. He's a first baseman. You got Michael Busch, Jace Beck. Sure, the guy looks like he's 45, but he also had Tommy John last year or the year before too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's a dart throw right there. And those guys were going to have to get put on the 40-man roster or be Rule 5 eligible. So I mean, some of this is like you're trimming some fat, not necessarily fat, but you got to make decisions. And I think they're going for it. Like Jefferson Rojas, to me, though, like you said, Ron, it's Pedro Ramirez's development that led to Jefferson Rojas. I believe they chose Rojas over, or they chose Ramirez over
Rojas.
Rojas. I do,
Especially
believe.
because Rojas has been playing more third base in the minors. Like, yeah, he's a natural shortstop by position, but he's been taking a lot more reps at third.
Mhm.
And I mean, first off, the beauty of shortstops, you can move them typically anywhere around the field. They're usually the best athletes on the field. And secondly, yeah, these guys that take their spots are great. And I'll tell you what, an incredible comment earlier from Scott that lays us out well too. Look at the bench. When's the last time
That's
the Cubs
great.
bench was this deep?
That's a
Solid.
really deep bench.
Ramirez, both of those guys can play both infield and outfield. Amaya's your second catcher. Alcantara can play all three outfield spots. Conforto can play the corners. Dean's got some ability. And they just went out and got Tyrone Taylor, who hits 900 OPS against lefties.
As I was gonna say, he's a lefty killer. Hap might be sitting some.
He might be. But you know what? Again, the depth that they have. It feels like they have an answer for all of the questions now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, yeah, is it nice when you can, bless you, when you can lay out the full, test and you get the big A+ of 100%. Yeah, but when you got a proper answer to all the questions, even if you get that 93 or 94 on the exam, you'll still take that every single day of the week. And that's kind of where it feels like the Cubs were with this deadline. They didn't have to move on from significant contributors right now. You moved on from players that the Rule 5 thing was a great call out as well, because what's the difference? Oh, we're going to have to make a decision on him and maybe cut him, or we can trade him now and get value for him and help us try to go win now. I'd much rather do the latter than the former.
And you got your controllable, quote unquote. I know, like you said, Ron, it wasn't Reed Detmers, it wasn't
Emerson Hancock or George Kirby. Listen, if I will quickly note this, and Nick, I think you kind of mentioned that too with Kirby. If this team went out and got George Kirby today, I think we'd all be sitting here with drinks on the show celebrating, because it would have been that kind of deadline. Don't get me wrong, still successful, but and in fairness though, guys, like, look how many guys stayed put. Detmers went nowhere. Soriano was really the only controllable starter that got moved,
which was a head
Is that
scratcher,
surprising?
by the way.
Yeah, what the Jays
That's a little
weirded
weird.
me out.
It was weird. It was weird that the Jays did that, not to turn this into just other teams, but that the Jays did that, and then the Orioles gave up one of their top players. It's just crazy. It was just crazy.
Not gonna lie, I don't really understand what the Padres were doing either. Like, why are they?
Another one. That was another one.
AJ Preller can't help himself. He refuses to sell. That dude's just
I
can't
feel
do
like
it.
he was probably like, we've signed all these dudes to long. You got Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. People forget Yu Darvish is going to be pitching until he's 50, or at least under contract until he's 50. So he's like, look, I better do something. And I mean, props to him. It sucks. Casey Mize and Robbie Ray, and didn't they get somebody else?
Bullpen, I
think they got a reliever. Yeah, maybe, I think it was a reliever that they got.
I mean, props to them. It's crazy. It's really surprising.
I think too, and Tyler, I'm glad you brought up like the other teams, because I think there's also some of that context that goes into what the Cubs did at this deadline. Was there a team that was more active than the Cubs at this deadline? I don't think so.
No,
maybe the White Sox, ironically.
I think I read something where didn't the Cubs acquire the most players at the deadline this year?
I think so.
I wouldn't shock me.
So.
I think they did. This is it's weird though too, because it was really focused on two positions, right? So that just goes to show you how serious that the Cubs were about doing this year. And I gotta go. I'm gonna throw it back for a minute. Couple weeks prior, Twinkle D and Twinkle Dumb. Got to give it up to Bruce Levine. He lit the fuse, baby. Bruce Levine started it all. Never forget. Bruce Levine. Thank you, Bruce Levine.
Hell yeah, Bruce. Lighting the fire under Jed and Carter's asses. But I will say too, guys, like, you look around at what the other teams did. So the Cubs are the most aggressive team at the deadline. And then you've got, you mentioned the Blue Jays. I actually kind of like what they did with the Soriano move. I don't think it's that weird because they were kind of one of those weird tweener teams where like you look at their team and you're like, they're not really a seller. They're really good. But if there's guys that they were going to move on from, whether that be through free agency or trades, I think those are the guys they got rid of. Dalton Varsho, Kevin Gausman, who's going to be a pending free agent. And then you go get a controllable starter that I think we all might have forgotten that team was in the World Series last year. Right. So like their core is very much still in a prime window where they could afford to go out and give away prospects and do that and still make your team better. I mean, they're also only like 2.5 out of the AL wildcard. The AL wildcard's an absolute shitstorm right now. So why not buy and sell a little bit? But then you also look at the lack of movement that the Brewers did.
Oh, that made me real happy.
And that was nice to see.
Who was it? I don't know. The Brewers picked up 2 pretty good bullpen arms.
Well, they got Dustin May. They got Dustin May and they got JoJo Romero. And
they got what's his name from the Rock? I get it was from the Rockies, but
Sentenzella, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they did get a couple bullpen.
They got some nice pieces, and don't get me wrong. I mean, sometimes you have a good enough team where, at the end of the day, you feel like you're sitting in a good spot. But look at the amount of people. Of our very first comment that we got here tonight from Nick said, Scuba's saying all the right things. Dodgers will be fine. It's kind of true. Like. You look around at the 2 teams that probably genuinely could have made a run at Scooble with better packages than what the Dodgers offered, and the Brewers and the Rays, because they have great farms. They just decided not to. Mm-hmm. The Rays pivoted and went and got Freddie Peralta, and they went and got Hicks from Miami to address a couple of their needs. And the Brewers kind of just took smaller swings at guys to just bring in depth for their pitching. So it just makes you sit back and you look at it and you go, it really makes you feel good about what Jed did, knowing what they have of it possibly in front of them as well.
Well, it's small market teams that made moves like small market teams. And that's where I'm not necessarily surprised with the direction that both the Brewers and the Rays did. I think the Cubs, they probably could have made a run at Scooble. And, you look at what the Dodgers gave up. I don't think the Cubs would have had to part with, I don't know what the hell the Tigers were thinking with that deal. That was the Dodgers barely even had to give up much to get Scooble. But I think if you really look at, the Dodgers are already playing with an all-star team practically. They won the last 2 World Series. They're probably going to win another one. And to me, them making that move, because did they really do anything else besides getting Scooble?
They went out and got Chris Bubik.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did get 2. Yeah.
And so to me, that was more so saying we're gonna go out. We already have our number 3 starter will be your ace on 29 of the teams in the league. We are gonna go out and get the best pitcher on the planet because we fucking can. That's exactly that there was no other reason besides because we can.
I gotta say though, even though you just said that, and that's 100% accurate about the Dodgers, it still doesn't answer why the Brewers didn't. Because the Brewers, like you said, have the package to be able to deal like anybody with any team. And where's the CC Sabathia kind of move that they made in the past? We know these guys aren't going to pay guys in free agency. So even if they get a controllable guy or whatever, maybe that's possible. But even rental pieces, that would be fine for the Brewers. The way the Brewers can operate as this kind of small market team is through the prospects, through the pipeline, developing well, competing that way, but then also utilizing those assets to make their team better in season. And it feels like to me they didn't really do the job that they needed to do. And I mean, that could come back to bite us in the ass as the Brewers and Cubs maybe face each other in the playoffs or whatever. But I don't know, man. It's kind of puzzling. Like you really should have done a little bit more, I think. If I'm a Brewers fan, I'm not happy with what they did.
And so far from what I've seen on social media from the limited Brewers fans that cross my feeds,
Got them all blocked now.
It didn't look. I know. I don't dip my toe in that pond because I know there's piranhas that'll try to eat you alive. So I just stay away from it. But I think they are pissed, and I think it's a valid point. We got some great comments here. Our good friend Peter Porker here. He says anybody who doesn't think that Jed cooked this year at the deadline isn't paying attention. With the looming lockout for starters, anyone with a brain to tell you the Cubs need arms, and luckily the Brewers didn't do a whole lot at the deadline, just as we talked about. Scott one goes on to say here, he says Jed said on the broadcast that the pending shutdown it didn't affect the deadline. Scott says he thinks it did. Less rentals were traded because teams want to save money, and I think that's a fascinating thought too. Because if there is no baseball, these teams aren't making money. Well, the Cubs are one of the few teams that actually can make money if there's no baseball being played because of what they own around Wrigley, because of the network. They have other means of making revenue if it's not ticket sales at Wrigley Field, where the Brewers don't have that. The Rays don't have that. Most of baseball, unless you're, one of the top 6 or 7 payrolls in the league, really have that opportunity or ability to feel that way. And I think and maybe that played in the Cubs' favor, where they said, hey, we can give up. When you look at it and you do the math at the end of the day, even if we call Mo Baller a top 30 prospect, right? You gave up 6 top 30 guys. I would only say maybe 3 of those guys were anywhere near your top 10. That's a pretty stomachable price for the amount of depth that they were able to get, right? It's not like they just made one trade and you had to part ways with 2 top 10 prospects. They made 4 separate deals and still somehow managed to part ways with number 13, number 21, number 10, number 28, number 2, and Mo Baller. And then McGuire, who I believe was number 19. So most of those guys were kind of in that 13 to 25 window more so than your high-end deal guys. And again, you keep the youngsters that are contributing already on your roster, like Matt Shaw and Pedro Ramirez and such intact. And I think, I really do think it was a splendid deadline for Jed Hoyer. And guys, I mean, we got an even bigger exclamation point too on top of it. They went out and took care of business against the Dodgers in game 1. And
they won a game
10-5. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fucking cool too. And, Nick, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? Matthew Boyd struggled a little early, but you know what I love about Matthew Boyd? That dude just battles. Like, even when he's not having his best stuff, just battles. And you know where that plays really well? The playoff. He battles. Gausman battles. Holmes battles.
Boyd
There's a trend starting to happen here. Yeah.
He has a calm under pressure about him. It really does.
And I think that can benefit this Cubs team so much. Like, I really think that there's a lot of people out there that are underselling it. I think all of us here at some point in our lives have been in a locker room, no matter what level that is. When you have been there or had that experience, you have this irrational confidence about you. When the adversity pops up, when the struggles happen, being able to turn that page, this team's going to walk into the playoffs this year. And every single guy on this roster now has really meaningful playoff experience, even the young guys. But then you supplemented that with the Alex Bregmans of the world and the Kevin Gausmans of the world and the Clay Holmeses of the world and the, and some of these other guys that are around. Like, that's going to mean leaps and bounds to this team when things actually start to matter more than just the 162. And I really think that's the one thing the Cubs did really well compared to some other teams. Like, yeah, getting Skubal's nice, but like Skubal's never sniffed the playoffs. Right? The Tigers have never been good enough to do that. And not to say that like, oh, he's not going to go out there and give his best and everything, but man, when you're the Cubs and you already have guys with late in playoff experience because of last year, and now you can kind of double down on that and almost get deeper from that perspective of that experience. That cool, calm, collective nature, Tyler, that you're referencing there really starts to shine when every single game and every pitch matters that much more. And like it kind of, I don't know about you guys, like I'm incredibly fired up after this deadline because it finally feels like Jed Hoyer got the wheelbarrow out because he had to carry them big old balls around with him everywhere he goes now for the rest of the season. He finally, like, everybody sat here and bitched and said, Jed, please do something. And he did it. And it's hard to be upset about that, man.
Yeah, you can't have the best of, oh, you never make a move, you never buy, and then get mad when he does buy. So
there were people that did that today, though, Joey. That's the problem.
I can't be me. It can't be me. I want to win at the MLB level. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, amen to that. I don't care about PCL championships.
Yeah, I'm scarred. Like, I just remember, like, Brennan Davis was supposed to be the big thing. Braylon Marquez was supposed to be the ace of the future. Like,
oh yeah,
Brett Jackson. Josh
I was gonna say,
Vitters.
Nick, we're old enough to remember Vitters and Brett Jackson and Felix
Michael.
PA and there's a lot of Corey Patterson. Even I mean, there's a lot of names on that long list of guys that were supposed to be heroes that were prospects. And and I will just quickly note this, guys. I do think to some Cubs fans, like the 2016 team tainted their thoughts on prospects because so many of those guys hit when in reality that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
right.
That's not the normal hit rate for top prospects to be meaningful contributors like that. And then you kind of saw it. Like it was kind of a flash in the pan, and then a lot of them regressed to the means, or just a few stepped up, or guys got hurt, or guys moved on. I think it was a perfect storm to show, like, hey, sometimes you just got to move on from these kids.
This is, we can take this for a brief second. I just want your thoughts on this theory. If the Cubs traded Eloy Jimenez to any other team outside of the White Sox, the city of Chicago shuts up about it within a year.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, probably. Especially
Yeah,
just injuries and stuff.
I do not care. Like I moved on from that trade like within a year. I personally didn't think it was that bad of a deal to begin with. I thought Quintana was good for what he gave the team. He wasn't the ace that
he was good that first year.
Exactly. Yeah.
I really wanted Verlander in that
yes
during that time, but Quintana wasn't a bad, whatever you call it, a 1C or B to the
right. And it's tainted because like there's two reasons why that deal was tainted. One, because you gave Eloy Jimenez turned into an MVP candidate for like a year for the White Sox. And then two, as you mentioned, Tyler, they could have gotten Verlander and what Verlander turned into with the Astros.
Yeah.
And hey, and to that point, Nick, in that time, they addressed a need that they really needed in that moment to get Quintana. We didn't know Quintana was going to turn out the way he did down the road, but in that moment, they addressed the need that they needed, and they got Quintana.
Do you guys think... go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and they paid for term. Like that's what happens when you pay for term at the deadline. You give up top prospects. I'll be honest with you. I remember when they made that trade, and everybody was like, "Oh, they gave up Eloy," and I'm like, "They gave up Dylan Cease." I'm a little more worried about that.
I was mad about that too.
Yeah. And lo and behold, look at where that went. Right? I mean, now Dylan Cease is a perennial All-Star pitcher year in and year out, and Eloy Jimenez is not even really like in baseball anymore. Just it's a perfect example of showing how trajectories and trying to predict it is such it's a fucking crapshoot to begin with. Baseball is the most 50-50 at every waking moment and decision of a game that's out there. Every single pitch is a coin toss. And then you multiply those coin flips over the course of a full game, over a full season, over multiple years, over an entire career. Nobody knows. Just like Billy Bean says in Moneyball, nobody knows. You can't predict it. I can't predict it. None of us have a crystal ball.
But we have predicted for half of our pitching staff to be on the IL at the beginning of the year. Hell no.
And we're still winning. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And that's why I was so happy that they just addressed all of their pitching needs. And they left the 1 through 9 pretty much entirely alone, and they didn't trade any of their hitters pretty much outside of Mo Baller. They left the hitting side because, like as I mentioned, Matthew Boyd kind of struggled a little bit. The offense put up 10 runs. Like That's so. What if the pitching staff is a little subpar when they have to rely on injuries too much? They score runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was crazy, though. There was not a shot in hell, and I'm with you, Nick. I'm glad they didn't touch the lineup. No shot in hell that any of those Seiya Suzuki rumors were true.
Oh God.
Like, that was just the biggest load of crap. I think somebody trying to either up the ante for a trade or something for whatever, like trying to give motivation for the Dodgers or Brewers, probably the Brewers, who knows. But I was going to ask you guys, do you think like what we were talking about earlier with like just in general, Jed has learned from, and it's taken him a while to learn this, I think. But do you think he's starting to learn that, like Ron, you've been saying this entire time, a prospect is a prospect, so he's no longer a prospect, and these guys, we don't know who's going to pan out, and all those guys in that 16 team in that era kind of all panned out. All your hitters panned out. Do you think he's starting to realize, like, yeah, that's kind of not the norm here. Like, maybe I should probably move on from some of these hitters and just address what we need to address when we need to address it.
100%. And I think too, and Tyler, Nick, agree with me or disagree with me here, but I think the early years of Jed Hoyer's tenure, because of the blow up in 21, they kind of coddled prospects a little bit more than they maybe should have. But they had that runway to do it because they weren't in an active competitive window. They were on the upward trajectory, so they could hang on to guys a little bit longer, give them a little bit more growth room, see truly what they had at the end of the day before just moving on to try and improve the team. But now, especially after last season, where you saw what happened when the team started to fall apart post deadline, and especially on the starting pitching front. And it was, shit, if we could have gone out and gotten a couple more guys, we would have been in a much better spot. Maybe you are in the league championship series against the Dodgers, and then who knows when it's a 7-game series. Instead, this year they go, all right, we're in the window now. We've got every position on this roster outside of the 2 corner outfield spots next year locked up from a hitting perspective. And we need pitching. Let's go get it, and let's take a true run at this thing. I got a number for you guys really quick that mentions this. Nick, you said it beautifully, right? They kept 1 through 9 intact. There is no team in baseball with a better batting WAR than the Chicago Cubs. 22.6 WAR by their position players. That's better than every single team in baseball. In fact, the next closest team doesn't even break 20. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers with 19.9 WAR from the batting. But in total team WAR, the Cubs are 7th because they only get 3.2 WAR from their pitching staff. Yeah. The next number down that list on the pitching front that you have to get that's lower than the Cubs number is all the way down at number 18 from the Washington Nationals, because they only got a 2.5 when they get almost 19 WAR from their position players. The Cubs are 7th on this list, and it is completely carried by that 1 through 9 that Nick mentioned. They approached this deadline beautifully to correct the one glaring need on this roster right now to give themselves a real shot at trying to win this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think, Joey, you put it perfectly in terms of like the prospects all hit like up until 2016, and then, Gleyber Torres, Eloy, Dylan Cease, they all hit as well. But you look at like immediately after 2016, like that's kind of when the prospects kind of stopped hitting. Like, I hate to say it, Albert Almora never turned into anything with the bat. Mark Zagunis never. Victor Caratini. Like, these are guys that, turned into, you could even argue Miguel Amaya hasn't really, he's still that secondary catcher. So if you look at that 1 through 9,
was once the top prospect in the Cubs system, Miguel Amaya.
Right, exactly. And so you look at, like I mentioned, like the Brennan Davises, the Braylon Marquezes. You look at the Cubs roster right now, and how many of that 1 through 9 is through organic like farm system. It's really just Ian Happ and Nico Horner. Like, I'm not counting Pete Crow Armstrong because that was through a trade. Michael Bush through a trade. Bregman signing. Seiya Suzuki signing. Dansby's a signing. Who am I forgetting?
Carson Kelly's a signing.
Carson Kelly's a signing. Yeah, that's pretty much everybody is, you bring in your prospects as they hit, but if you don't, you ship them off for elsewhere, and you don't hold on to them too much. And you look at what happened. I think that's kind of, I'll kind of go cross sports here. You look what the Blackhawks are doing right now, and they're really trying to just let the young guy, with the exception of bringing in Patrick Kane, which like still doesn't feel real. They are essentially just giving the prospects the reins. And
Mhm.
they're not signing these guys because they want the prospects to feel comfortable and take the reins themselves. The Cubs tried that during that 2021 to 2024 range, and it didn't work. And so that's where you saw like bringing in the Sayas, the Bregmans, even the Michael Bushes, like prospects that aren't yours, but like could be a good flyer and could turn into something really good. So it's a mix of that prospect development that has still always been a really good factor, but bringing it like utilizing that aggression and bringing in that outside help when need be.
Definitely. Roster construction is a beautiful thing
Oh,
when you
it's
look
great.
back on it. It's fun. It's a good time. It's always exciting. Gentlemen, we are quickly approaching the hour mark. So I want to open the floor here for some final thoughts from each one of you before we go ahead and shut this thing down.
Well,
I mean,
I'm just through the freaking roof. That's all I can say. I thank God. Thank Bruce Levine. Get to work, boys. Get to work. Now it's time. It's time to go out there and do work. And you know what? I think this has to be a huge uplift to the whole Cubs clubhouse. You can see by the way they played tonight, they got down early and didn't let it get to them. And just not to say that that's how it's going to happen every night. We know how baseball is, but I do think that this was a positive step in the right direction. And this is exactly I can feel good about this stretch run, no matter how it shakes out. Now it's just up to them, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited, man. I'm really happy today. Really happy Cubs fan.
Well said. Well said. Nick?
yeah, I think as I mentioned, this is probably the first time since 2016 where like I actually feel satisfied with what they did at the trade deadline. I think the only other deadline that I was like kind of happy with was at 2019 with Castellanos,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a great move. It just didn't pan out, but that's baseball. But this is, as you mentioned, this is they got the pieces now. They have what they didn't have last year. So let's see what they can do. They definitely have the depth. Like that's the first time I really saw that bench on paper. And especially you add Tyrone Taylor to it, like that's a really damn good bench. And that's something that they didn't really have as well last year. I will say the one player that I'm really glad that they kept is Kevin Alcantara. I'm really glad they kept him because I think just the way he plays the game, he's very tall, athletic. He has a beautiful swing. Ian Happ is a free agent, and I'm not saying that you got to. I'm not one of those people that just finds every excuse to hate on Ian Happ. Like I think he's a very valuable player and brings everything to this team, but you have to be ready to replace him if you do let him walk. And I think Kevin Alcantara can fill that void. And with that being said, thanks to our lovely friends in LA, I'll see you boys in 2028.
Ain't that the damn truth, Tyler?
Guys, I'm ready to ride out the rest of the season. I'm excited. Just after today, I'm ready to I'm ready to mispronounce Ryan Zeferjahn's name for the next 2 months. But I love it. Can't wait. A name that got brought up in the comments. An old friend, still a friend, good friend, Justin Steele. Seen him Friday at the Nationals in the lobby. Talked for a minute. He threw a 20-pitch bullpen on Saturday. Guys, he's pitching this year, and he looks good. He looks good. That's all I can say. But gosh, this is going to be fun. These next 2 months, 2+ months. Sorry, these next 2+ months. Dude, it is. It's going to be fun. Can't wait.
I didn't know if I could get happier, Tyler. Thank you for that update on Justin Steele.
I'm telling you, dude. Yeah, he did. He was talking about it because I seen him in the lobby, I said, "Hey, Justin." He comes up. We hug each other, talk for a minute. Told me he was going to be at the Whatnot booth. Go to the Whatnot booth because he's doing a break, and he's just throwing packs to kids. Threw one to me. I dropped it. Sorry. But he said he's throwing 20 pitches. Felt great. Let's go. Hell yeah.
Let's go. Indeed. It's a beautiful thing when this Cubs team feels the deepest I think it's felt since the World Series era. They finally have a what feels like a complete squad in a lot of ways. And maybe they don't have that superstar in the pitching front right now because we were robbed of what could have been a breakout year for Cade Horton or what could have been another steady and incredibly strong year for Justin Steele as a frontline starter. But they went out and made moves, and they weren't scared, and they weren't afraid of the future either. They have plenty of pitchers now beyond next season, which prior to this year was something that we weren't totally sure about as fans. Now you look at it, they got guys for the now. They've got guys who could come back in like a Clay Holmes. And then they got guys for the future, like a Braxton, Garrett. And like a lot of the guys they still have under contract, Justin Steele, Cade Horton, Edward Cabrera. I think we keep forgetting about Edward Cabrera just because he's been hurt so much. This team is deep, and that depth is going to be a potential massive difference maker when it comes to the postseason. And I think really just down the stretch run, we're going to hit the dog days of August. This team's going to need some rest. Some of these older guys that have been playing every day might need a day off. That's where Pedro Ramirez, it's where Matt Shaw, it's where Tyrone Taylor, some of the other guys can step in and give that gas. Maybe you can throw out there a 6-man rotation for 2 or 3 weeks and give some of these starters a little bit of a break as the stretch run comes down. But I'll tell you what, it's a good problem to have when you keep thinking of problems to have with the roster construction. And I'll take that problem every day of the week, twice on Sundays, and 16 times in October, because that's going to allow this team to potentially go deep in the postseason. And I can't wait to watch the rest of this Cubs season unfold. As always, we appreciate everybody for tuning in with us. Head over to the On Tap Sports Net YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit that bell button. You'll know when all of our great shows go live. The Sox on Tap guys were live tonight as well, talking about their trade deadline. We were here talking about the Cubs. Shout out to Nick Newmeyer for joining us. Check out the Center Cup podcast as well. You can find that on the On Tap Sports Net YouTube channel in addition. And of course, check out all of our other great shows there as well. You'll know when those go live as long as you hit that bell button. Head over to the website. Follow all of us on the socials. You know the drill. OnTapSportsNet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on the socials. And you can check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Gentlemen, this was a blast. Trade deadline's in the rear view. Now it's full steam ahead for the sprint before the hunt for October. Can't wait. It's going to be beautiful. What do you say, gentlemen? We get out here the only one how it comes on tap?
Boys, F the Cardinals as usual, but let's just talk about someone real quick, or a team that Matt, that's kind of in the hunt anyways. Bring on the Dodgers tomorrow. Tarek Skubal, first time in Wrigley, going to be your last time because we're going to run you for 3 1/3 probably. Bring it on. And let's go Cubs.
And pour one out for Luke Little, too. He got DFA today. That was very overlooked.
Ooh, indeed. And let's go Cubbies.